Good evening and welcome. I'm Bob Pace, your host, and this is a podcast live from California about fighting CPS and stop taking our children. Now, I'm a family man, a loving husband with 6 children. But unfortunately, I had the same trap as you all had of falling in with CPS. CPS is a federal agency that I thought could help me. Instead, they destroyed me and my family. They destroyed me and my family. I've tried so hard these 14 years to understand them, and I've talked to over 100 people across the country, and they have one thing common that I did. They steal your children. They do child trafficking. They lie, they cheat, they're not transparent, they're deceiving, they use the police to do unfair tactical takings, and this is a hard way to approach it that way. But I want you all to know that I do care. I do care about your CPS case. I'm a caring man, a loving man. And I want you all to know that I'm there for you, and hopefully I can help you with some ideas of how to go through your CPS nightmare. It is a nightmare. It's like Alice in Wonderland has fallen in a rabbit hole and you've encountered all these doors going nowhere. You're also like a spider. A spider is in there spinning webs and have trapped you in there. And it's a spaghetti mess. That leads me in to tell you how to get out of that mess you're in. Now, the show is interactive, meaning sometimes we have a guest on the show. Tonight, there's no guest. But if you'd like to talk right now and be our guest, you can call in at 626-698-0990. I would love to have you. I'd love to talk to you about your case and see if I can help you. So all you do is call in 626-698-0990. Now, if you don't want to call in, you can text in. You can text a message or a comment to me. All I ask is you say your name and what city and state you're from, so I get a general idea of where all the CPS mess is. So far, it seems evenly distributed among all the states. Whether you're in Northern California, Southern California, Arizona, or all the other states out there, CPS has become a nightmare. It's the number one thing. And I heard some horrible stories this morning and last night. It seems every time I talk, it gets worse and worse. Grandparents are trying to get their grandkids back. And the CPS is using so many lies and deceits. Taking children that not necessarily be taken and put them in foster care. That's wrong. Not every case is bad. Not every case needs to have a child taken from their parents, but they do so. It was in my case. They took my 3 children. It was so sad. So sad. But you can text or call. And if you don't want to text or call, but like to be on a show another day, because I have 14 of these shows, 2 days a week, from 10 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and nighttime from 7 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. You can email my producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. That's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. She will help you get on the show, and you can be a guest speaker. You can become a guest speaker. I love to have you because I want this show to help you. This is a show that should help you. Now, I don't want to If you don't want to be on it, that's fine. You don't want to interact, that's fine. But I'll try to be as best as I can to help you. I'm not an attorney. I'm just a guy that's gone through this mess that is a nightmare. This mess is really uncalled for. They're supposed to do family reunification, but they don't even know what the word exists. Child Protection Services, CPS, is a branch of social services. It's supposed to help protect our children from abuse and from neglect. Not to steal children, not to put them like child trafficking into foster care. The sole purpose I found, and most of you will find the same reason, is the money thing. CPS gets $20,000 or more for each child they take in. And that money is not going all to the child or how to take care of the child. I know that for a fact. When I was investigated and things were going bad, I didn't get an attorney right away. That's something we're going to talk about real soon. So I tried to find it myself, and I tried to send off emails and point out where they're wrong. And I tried to talk to the managers, the supervisors. I even went to the top dog, the director, and I met with him in his Taj Mahal building with all his gold coming out of his chest. It was definitely, I could see where the money was spent. That building looked like the Emerald City of the Wizard of Oz. There's no need. There was no need for them to take my children. There was no need at all. Now, rule number one, I tell everybody every night, every morning, that you need to get an attorney. And the rationale I use is, let's say you're going for open heart surgery. Something wrong with your heart. You have a valve that's broken. You have something else. You need to have a doctor. A doctor has gone to medical school, that has done an internship, that has a license to practice his trade. And also, he has followed another doctor for a while before he started to get into cutting you up and so forth. Why is it a doctor? I'm not saying you need a doctor. You need a lawyer, and you need a lawyer experienced in family law, dependency, and juvenile. And that lawyer has got to be fighting CPS and get back from them. Now, this show is produced by Vincent W. Davis and Associates. They're in Southern California. And they have many lawyers at their office that take care of all your legal needs, whether it's immigration, whether it's criminal, whether it's divorce, whether it's child custody, whether it's unemployment, wages, all kinds of lawyers to do all kinds of things. They'll take care of bankruptcy, and they'll take care of they'll take care of bad loans, predatory loans that where people their income was doctored up and their paperwork was doctored up, predatory loans. But what you need in our law firm is Vincent W. Davis. He's been fighting for a long time against CPS. He knows how to fight CPS. He knows how to get your children back. He has sued CPS. He's a trial attorney. He's a professional family law, juvenile, attorney, and he can help you. He helped me. It just took me a year and a half to figure it out. And then on top of that, he's offering right now a 30-minute consultation for $49.99, $49.99, $50. He'll talk to you for 30 minutes about the strategies of fighting CPS and getting your children back. And if you like him, you can retain him. He'll discuss his fees depending on the kind of case you got and where it's located. Further away from Southern California, there'll be more fees because of the travel and the accommodations that have to be included in there. But it also depends on the complexity of the case and how long the case has been going on. So I'm telling you, rule number one, get that attorney. And you think maybe the public defender that they're going to give you at your first trial hearing, your dependency hearing, they won't help you. They're young, immature. They have a caseload of 20 over, and they're just friends with the other attorneys in court and the judge. A public defender is not worth the effort. The court is like a kangaroo court. And the CPS workers are so young and immature. My CPS worker was fairly new. She did not have a college degree. She got the job. Social workers don't need a college degree or take classes in social work or have a certificate or a license. They're supposed to know everything at age 22. Family reunification, child neglect, child abuse. But they don't. They don't. And that's the sad part. They work on bonuses. They're so proud to talk about their bonuses. Every time I went with my social worker, she was showing her new eyelashes, her makeup, her Gucci purse, her BMW car. It was all about money. That's the whole system. I can see it on the walls. All about money. At your expense, parents. So it is a terrible, horrible thing. So I wish you all very much luck, but you need that attorney. You need that attorney so bad. Rule number 2 is you need to get a notebook to write down your notes. Lots of things happen, and you need to know from time to time. You have to refer to it. So this notebook, you write in the date and time of the incident, what people were involved. Was there a social worker? Was there a parent? Was there children? Was there police? You write all the parties involved. Then you describe the incident. The incident. What kind of incident was it? They came and took your child. They came into your home, or they gave medication, or they did something there. And then you want to describe that incident you describe, and then you want to describe the outcome. What happened after the incident? You may not know right away. It may take some time. So make sure you have that notebook, because 6 months the case is supposed to last 48 days. But I've yet to hear anybody do it in 48 days. Mine was 3 years. Another gentleman on here was 8 years. Someone said they've been fighting for 21 years. And then people here have said stories like they were in foster care. They have children. Now their children in foster care. It seems all CPS wants to do is take away the children to get that money. They don't care who they hurt in the process. The children are abused. The children are abused. Think about that. They're supposed to protect your children. Instead, they're not. That leads me now to the third rule, which is, I think, the most important, is that do not talk to social workers or police about your case. Do not let them in your home. You say, well, I thought I had to. All right. The law clearly states that your home is your castle. You have to give them permission to come in the home. The only time that a policeman or a social worker can come in a home if they feel it's necessary because of extreme bodily harm or extreme abuse is happening. Like maybe there's a gun shots being shot at each other, or maybe the parent is beating the kid with a baseball bat. Yes, at that time they can enter the home because they're going to protect them. But if they enter the home to gather additional evidence or make up stories or do that just to make you feel bad, that's wrong. And that's what they're doing a lot lately. So if a social worker says, hi, we have some allegations that we want to talk to you about. Well, your first remark should be inside your head, oh no, I need to contact my attorney. Now, you may not have an attorney regularly. You may have to contact one, but they don't know it. You can tell them, I'm sorry, I cannot talk to you until I talk to my attorney first. I'll get back to you. But we want to come in your home, not until I talk to my attorney. My attorney will get back to you. You be professional with them. It's yes, no answers. Yes, no answers. Same way with the police. Don't let the intimidation of the social worker with the policeman in his combat boots and battle fatigue intimidate you. That's just a show. There's no need for a police officer to dress in combat gear to apprehend a child that's 6 months, a year old. I mean, come on. That's called intimidation. And that's what they want to do. They want to intimidate you so you're scared, so you're afraid of them. And all they are is an uncontrolled public government agency that's out of control and been out of control. We need to contact our congressmen, our representatives, our senators, and tell them how corrupt CPS. They need to have accountability. There need to be a board of directors. There need to be, supervisors, someone that's overseeing the whole thing while this is going place. And their goal should be family reunification. There's parenting classes, there's other programs, anger management and so forth, that the parent can take. Just because they have a hiccup doesn't mean it's over. I mean, one of the stories, a woman was saying that she was teaching her kid about the necessary to stay away from the stove. So she took the kid's hand and put it in the flame of the stove. Well, that's wrong. But is that enough to take the children away and lock them up? Or enough to sit there and make the parents go through 3 years of hell? No. There's things like that. A parenting class can straighten that out. A good talk lecture can. But they're not there to help you. They're not there. They're not there to help you. Now, what's going to happen first? And I got two people that text in. Okay. Anthony, I think Anthon from New York City, 1922. Okay, please consider a collaboration with a group called You Are the Power. They have been bringing attention to families fighting for justice against effective medical kidnapping. Now, I know that people have said that CPS workers can do clinical therapy or declare a parent is not with it together or give medication. They're not doctors. You have to go to special school and get a degree. I don't know what the name of this group is. Let me see what he puts in there. Namely, the Hernandez fighting for Remus in Georgia. Okay, so here's a family fighting in Georgia, and I think it's something to do called medical kidnapping. I'd like to hear more on that, Anthony, if you could tell me more. What you could do is call in and be our guest on the show and talk about it. Okay, he says child abuse pediatricians. Okay. I don't know if there's pediatricians that are gone bad. Is that what you're trying to say? That these pediatricians are doctors that are abusing children? Is that what you're saying has happened to you in Forsyth, Georgia? So Anthony has told me something new. It's so interesting. I get interesting topics every time the show. I never seem to get the same one. I've never had child abuse pediatrician. I've heard about, social workers giving children medication when they don't supposed to, or saying a parent is mentally ill or something. But pediatricians abuse children. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. So Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Anthony. I'd be more to hear about the Hernandez family and their group. The group is called You Are the Power, and they're bringing attention to families fighting for justice against effective medical kidnapping. And I guess something happened with Hernandez family in Fourth Georgia. Yes, I understand what you're saying, Anthony. He says, okay. He says families go to the hospital for help. And then the hospital, they're accused of abusing when an underlying condition is the cause. That's so true. You know, even with allegations, there are two types of allegations made. One are by common lay people, and the other one are by professionals. Anybody that works with children are professionals. Doctors, policemen, firemen, so forth, school teachers. Lay people could be in-laws, friends, family members, or whatever it is. And a lot of the cases that are called in by family members are false allegations. That was in my case. I lost my job, and my in-laws were trying to take her children. Can you believe that? How bad that people are? And then you were using CPS. And what does CPS do? They alienate the children from their parents, and alienation's against the law. You're not allowed to alienate people. There's a law that protects you. There's your constitutional and your civil rights. Yeah, they don't solve the medical conditions. I've heard of where, well, last night we had a grandmother trying to get her two children back because her daughter had a tube process, a feed tube process in her mouth. A lot of people have issues in life. That doesn't mean they can't have children or they can't be a parent. And they were thinking she was strung out on drugs only because of the feeding tube. So false allegations and medical conditions happen all the time. I understand what you're saying there, Anthony. So again, we're 23 minutes into the show, and I encourage any of you that would like to call and talk about your case. All you do is call in 626 698 0990. That's my office phone. I will answer it, and I'll put you on speakerphone, and you could be able to talk on the show. Say, hear me talk. Yes, I know about CPS workers using the hospital to do their dirty work. Now, I'll tell you about something that's really horrible is a parent will start to have their child in the birthing room, and who walks in? A social worker grabs the baby, it's just born. Mother has no chance to nurse it or anything. And they take the baby out of the hospital, which is wrong. She's got to have a warrant in the first place, and that's not appropriate. A child and mother need to be together for a period of time. And if they're going to take the child away, then the mother has to go with the child, and the mother can go there. But CPS is so cruel. You know, a newborn infant needs her mother's milk. He or she needs the nurse. And sure, there's going to be a bonding going to take place. But it's real important that they don't go in there. There's no law that says they can go in there and take them, but they use the police, and the hospitals are stupid because they have a lawsuit against them, letting someone come in there and steal the children. That's wrong. If I was a doctor or a manager or director of the hospital, I would tell them to go wait in the lobby or come back later or deal with the thing not here at the hospital. When their parents are released, you can take the mother and the child somewhere, but, don't take them from my hospital, use my hospital. And that's cruel. That's cruel. And also, if you have a child, you have a case that's open, and you decide to have another child during your case, they'll take that child right away from you. When you have a case open to you, you're not supposed to have any more children. And, it's like a form of birth control or something they're trying to do. CPS is really bad. They're really, really bad. They're evil. They lie. They're very deceptive. They're not fair. They don't care about you as a parent. They abuse parents. They alienate children from their parents. The best people for children are the biological parents. Studies have shown that the best people for moms and dads are biological moms and dads with their kids. They need both parents. And I know that some of you are going through a divorce or separation or something. Don't use your children as pawns to alienate the parents. No, that's wrong. And any of you there are listening that are, well, I don't think you'd be listening, but any family member out there that wants to destroy a family, it's wrong to use CPS like that. In fact, I wish they'd make a law that anybody that makes an allegation, professional or layman, has to do so in writing, sign the name to it. That name can be kept confidential. But if it turns out that the stuff that they're saying is not true, then they can be sued. They could be sued. That's false allegations. We need to change that. There's so much I want to see changed in child protection services. They're an outlaw organization, an organization that's got out of hand, and no one's controlling it. No one is controlling it. And the social workers, the way they allow them to come into the system, uneducated, without a college degree, no classes in social work. They don't even have a program where they follow experienced social worker and go through them and learn how it's supposed to be done. Maybe it's supposed to be a 10-year program where they mentor that older social worker, because it takes a long time. They can't expect to, they're just fresh on the job, to know about how to do unification or what is abuse, physical abuse and neglect of children. And why is it necessary for every case to automatically take a child from the home? Why? Think about that. Right now they're doing it. They take a child away at birth. A mother just gives birth, and the birthing matter has not even been cleaned up. The social workers running down the hall with the child. There was a case yesterday where I heard that the Massachusetts CPS in Boston was going over to Rhode Island to take two grandchildren from the grandparents because they were, I guess, watching them while their daughter was at the hospital in Boston to have some specialized work. And the CPS thought they were in danger. Now, that is ridiculous to hear that going on. Where were the CPS workers when a child was left alone for 12 days in a little baby chair with no food, no water, sat in its own diapers? It was a gross thing. And when they investigated that child, he died of malnutrition and dehydration. He had no water in him. He had no food. What do you think after the third day that child was crying its heart out? Think about that little precious child crying on the third day of its third day of abandonment by the mother. And mother comes strolling back. Oh, I was on a vacation. There's so many horror stories with child abuse. I know it's out there. I'm not saying we need to get rid of child protection service. We need to clean it up. We need to repair the problems with it. We need to make it user friendly. There should be also week of a case is open, the children get together and discuss what is happening, what's going on, what are the parents doing, what are the children doing, and they should all meet face to face, not hide behind closed doors or anything. They make it worse. They want the children to be so corrupt. Our daughter was taken and convinced to divorce us at the age of 12. And they say, "Oh, you got other children." That doesn't hurt the pain when you have a child. When you have a child and you with your loving wife and you have that child and the child's born, you want to see that child and bring up that child. You want to see them when they get married and they can walk down the aisle with them arm in arm. You want to see their children so you have grandchildren. We don't have any of that. We don't have any of that. And that whole CPS has contaminated our 3 older children. Now, they weren't around when the things were taking place. One was 25 at the time. The other one, I think, was in the late 20s. The other one was just barely 30. No, 25. So that other one was like 21. Anyway, they're older children. They were starting to make a life. They're old now. I mean, our oldest son is in his 40s, living very successful life. But for some strange reason, the last couple of years, he doesn't want to talk to his mother, who gave him life. That's another thing. It's so easy to abort your children. And when you go through a rape that my wife went through and had the child and gave him up for adoption, she wanted to raise him. That's something special about that woman. And the child turned out special. He's okay. And she was raped a second time. Where are her parents protecting her? Where were her parents protecting her? Where is CPS? I hear so many horror stories. Instead, they spend hours and weeks and years subduing innocent allegations that were not anything to agree. And on top of that, they attack people that are broke, that are homeless, that maybe have lost a job, maybe don't have the income. And that's the sad part too. That's the sad part too. So basically, I hurt for you guys. I feel for you. This is sincere. I also feel sad losing my daughter. And I very foolishly did not get an attorney early on. And maybe if I got early on, then my children were taken from us or abused in CPS's hands. My children were abused. They never experienced that. They would never experience that. Now, for 5 years, they were constantly saying that they got reports of us not taking care of the children, not feeding them, no utilities, no clothes, not going to school, and so forth. And I showed every social worker their grade reports. I showed the refrigerator full of food. I showed receipts for food. I showed receipts for utilities. I showed how the lights on. I didn't let them in my house at that time because I really didn't have anything wrong in the house. It wasn't until 5 years later when the social workers kept getting these harassments and wanted to investigate further, they used a police detective to have me pulled over by a black and white after I picked up my son at school and insist me I had to drive to the home. I should have said, no, unless you have a warrant, I'm not going to go there. Instead, I thought I could trust him. So I followed the policeman. And in front of my house was a lot of people. I said, what's going on? Are we having a party or something? There was 5 firemen, 2 code enforcement officers, 2 uniformed police officers, 3 social workers, and the detective, all insisting they had to go to my house. I didn't know if my house was on fire or someone broke in and stole something. I lived in a private neighborhood. My neighbors are probably shocked at what they saw. But all those people can leave and go home to their homes, but I have to go home and explain to the neighborhood what was going on. When they came into my home, the only thing they could find was negligence, because I had taken my parents' things who were dying and I couldn't afford to put them in storage. And I was trying to give them to families and relatives and close out my mom and dad life. They were at the end of their life. And they think, oh, that is extreme negligence, the boxes, the furniture. They can go upstairs and attack your children. Come on, get real. Chairs don't walk, boxes don't fly. But they took my children. My son was with me trembling because I picked him up from school. And this detective had followed me for a long time. Got the black and white to pull me over. And then he insisted I come to the house. I'm telling you, they do trickeries. You can't trust social workers. They do trickeries. Now, sometimes you see me maybe stop or think. It's really hard because I love my children and my daughter's gone. And my two sons and my wife are still suffering from social workers invading our life. We had a stable family. Our family would go on trips around the world. We go to countries, Portugal, Brazil, France, Australia, Japan. I go on and on. And then we go to Canada. And then we go on camping trips to Yosemite, to all the fun places. And we do this as a family. We were a family. And on top of us, as being a family, we did Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. We were at all their schools, back to school night, to open house, to teachers' meetings, to the recitals, to their sports performance. We were there all through the elementary, all through the middle school, and all through the high school. We have one remaining boy who's 18, who just finished a great year in football. And, he's in a private school. And he had wanted to go and be an astronaut, going to Mars. But with CPS, the way they treat us, it affected him. Our second oldest son wanted to do something similar, and he went to college. And the sad part about it was, after 3.5 years, he said, Dad, I don't know what's going on. I don't feel like school is worth it anymore. So after 3.5 years, a semester away from graduating, he said he had it too much with CPS. CPS made him fail because he was a straight A student. He had scholarships. He had his own apartment. He had a great job, as an intern at Raytheon. A great job there at Raytheon, one of the leading space industries. Because he wanted to be involved in space too. Both my boys did. But CPS ruined them. It was a sad, tragic thing what they did to them. Very, very, very sad. So, they're home with me. When I hired Vincent Davis a year and a half later, he got my boys back. They returned in 2018. Another sad thing about this is I lost my job through no fault of my own in 2010. And it's very hard for an older person to get a career job again. They're not out there. Right now, they're talking about our candidates for president. They're too old. No, it's not they're too old. If they slur on speeches or they, doze off or fall off, it's hard when you get up there in years. It doesn't mean they're no good. But with me, it's really been hard getting a job. I'm looking for a job right now. I got a job, a career job, but they ran out of work and didn't have any more work for me to do. And so now I'm trying to find another job. And I've been working all my life. I've been working since I was 15 years old. That's 59 years, almost 60 years I've been working. That's a long time. That's a long time. But where do we go here from now? I don't know what any of you guys are listening right now, what your cases are all about, because we have no one really texting. We had Anthony text in about abuse by pediatricians, but I don't know. Sometimes people come in at the last minute. It's also hard. I know it's hard out there to talk about your case. I know it's hard. Anthony further says that they have taken the children and split the couple from living or corresponding, going on 9 months with no communication between the married couple. Oh, yeah. CPS is notorious for breaking up mothers and fathers. They're notorious about doing that. They really are, Anthony. That's what I've known for a long time. I guess I must have missed that, but that was bad. Now, I'd like to talk about some other things that usually after your children are taken away, they have a safety meeting. That is a meeting where you decide with the social workers where your children will stay while you do your plan, while you fix whatever hiccups they said you did. In that safety meeting, for all you Native Indians out there, there's a protective act about Indian children. The act happened in 1979. Now, these Native American Indians were our first immigrants to North America. They came via the land bridge through Alaska and then settled down through Canada, then down to the United States, then further down to Central America and South America. So these Native American Indians have been living a lot longer than we have. I mean, the migrations after them would be the Vikings, then the Europeans, where they have the Dutch, the English, the Spanish, the French, and the Spanish all come here. So these immigrations have been going on for some time. But the one group that was there before all of them was the Native American Indians. And every time they would try their lifestyle, they'd be pushed by the settlers moving westward, moving into their lands, their sacred lands. And they'd make promises, and the promises would be broken. And the Native American Indian people suffered a bit, their children, their wives, the mothers, whatever it was. So they had this act passed, which was to stop CPS from taking Indian children so easily. Because for a long time, in the 1870s, the last big battle the Indians had was the Battle of Little Bighorn, where Crazy Horse, the chief, beat Custer. And that was the only battle the Indians ever won against the United States. And President Grant was really behind the Indians, but his hands were tied by all the corruption going around. And there's so many promises. It's so sad. The Indians have been brutalized. Their lands have been taken away. Their hair has been cut. Their culture has been reduced. Their language is gone. And I'm talking about all the Indians, the Lakota Sioux, the Cheyenne, the Crow, the Navajo, the Apache, the Comanche, the Chumash Indians in California, the Iroquois out of back east. There's so many different tribes, all federal tribes. But this act of 1979 called ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, said that if you are registered Indian, one of the federal tribes, or your children are, or could be registered, then the children, CPS has to give them to other members of the tribe, to other families, for them to help their families get back on track. So if there's an allegation, the Indian family would take care of the allegation and help the parents with their children, not steal the children, not take the children. So that's a good thing. But that's only for Native American Indians. And it's even hard because you have to make sure the register and CPS drops the ball. Sometimes they don't even talk about it. They look at you and say, "You're not Indian. I don't need to." They need to, at the safety meeting, talk about that. Also, they need to ask from you, what family members could your children stay with? It's supposed to go to family members, not to foster care. It's so easily that children are put into foster care right away. And that's wrong. That's wrong. That should not be right away. They don't need to go into foster care. If they're adopted into foster care, that means CPS will collect the money until the child turns 18. And that's wrong to use it for just money. So at that safety meeting, you give them a list of names. They can stay with Aunt Polly, or they can stay with Uncle Harry, or they can stay with Grandma Moses, or whatever the family members are. And they should be able to stay there. That way you can still see your children. And if you did something really awful, it can be monitored visitations. But you should have some type of visitations with your children, either monitor or unmonitored visitations. And it's wrong the way they do it right now. It's totally wrong the way they do it. They don't have weekly meetings with the children and the parents, which I think they need to do that. And you say, well, if they're only 10 months old, what does a weekly meeting have? Well, if the parents meet the social workers and the children say, okay, your baby's being housed at so and so, they're taking care of them and making sure they eat right, and you parents are taking this parenting class and that parent. There needs to be a weekly meeting so they get this matter over, so the children can be back with their mom and dad, not allow them to be abused and not be with their loving parents. Because y'all are loving your parent. I mean, y'all loving your children. You wouldn't be involved. You would not come to this podcast if you didn't love your kids. So anyway, I've told you about ICWA and the safety meeting. There's a couple other things. There's something here called the 388 motion. That 388 motion is, let me pull it up here. It's really important. I was telling somebody today. Okay. The 3A motion is a modification of juvenile court judgments and orders. It's where you can ask the judge that you want to modify your existing plan because you have new information or you completed your parenting classes or programs, or you have new evidence that should be able to help you on that. 388 motions are a way to modify or change the juvenile court judgments and orders. They're filed when there is a change of circumstances or new evidence. They're used to petition a court for a hearing to change, modify, or set aside any previous court order or terminate the court's jurisdiction. Now, when they petition the court to have this hearing, the motion must be in writing and filed with the clerk of juvenile dependency court. And you should have your attorney do that. Now, if you're serving the 3A motion, certain parties should be serve this notion. All parties in the case, including the child's attorneys and probation officer, a 3-8 motion must be set for hearing within 30 days of filing. 30 days of filing. Now, juvenile dependency court is the court that hears cases involving abuse and neglect or abandonment children. The goal of the court is to protect the child and provide for their safety, permanency, and well-being. That's the court you're going to take, that you're going to have your plan discussed or whatever is on there. Now, the burden on the 388 hearing is on the person that's filing the motion. That's why it's good to have an attorney that can show a change of circumstances or new evidence that warrants a modification of juvenile court orders. New evidence could be you complete all your parenting classes. You've been tested drug-free for a year. So that's what a 388 motion is. So hopefully you all understood that. Now, I'm going to talk to you about the health and the Welfare and Institution Code, Section 300B. If the child has suffered or there is essential risk that the child will suffer serious physical harm or illness as a result of the failure or inability of his or her parents or guardian to adequately supervise or protect the child. So that's what this whole thing is about. And I wish CPS would read that. The child should continue to be a dependent child pursued by the subdivision only as long as necessary to protect the child from risk of suffering serious physical harm or illness. There are 3 elements of the 300 subdivision B. 1, neglectful conduct by the parent is one of the specified forms. There's accusation and serious physical harm or illness to the child or substantial risk of such harms or illness. The 3rd element requires showing that at the time of the jurisdictional hearing, not before the hearing, at the time of the jurisdictional hearing, that the child is at substantial risk of serious physical form in the future. So you have 2 hearings. You have one that is the hearing is a jurisdictional hearing. And then you have the hearing about your plan and so forth. And there's a lot of information that can be found on the internet. A lot of things you can find there. We have about 5 minutes left of the show. And again, if anybody wants to call in for 5 minutes and talk about their case, it's 626-698-0990. Now, if you want to talk about a later date of being on the show as a guest, all you do is email our producer, Grace at vincentwdavis.com. That's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. She will help you get on the show. You just pick one of the 14 shows that I have, and she'll get you on there. Now, don't forget that first rule to get an attorney. You'll need that attorney, and that is Mr. Vincent W. Davis. And to reach him is 888-888-6582. Tell him that Bob Pace sent you and that you wish to have a consultation with Mr. Davis, and he, for 30 minutes, will charge $49.99. But he'll give you a wealth of information and strategies of how to fight CPS and how to get your children back. So that's 888-888-6582. So don't forget that first rule. You'll need that attorney to go through CPS to get your kids. Don't make the same mistake and wait too long. I had to sell my house. I had to give up all my personal savings, everything, to fight for my kids. I love my family too much. I love my family too much, and I would do anything for them. I give my right arm. Because CPS is not a nice thing to be involved in. It's a nightmare. And I really feel for anybody going through it, it's going to be a nightmare. Now, I did talk about rule number 2, that you need a notebook, and you need to record everything that's happening. The date, the time, the people involved, describing the incident and the outcome. That's really important there. And lastly, that rule number 3, valuable, don't talk to social workers. Don't talk to police. Tell them that you're going to have your attorney contact them. They don't know if you have an attorney or not, and they'll maybe back off because they don't like parents with attorneys. They don't like parents that are rich or have income because they know they can fight them. They prey on the people. And in my case, I lost my job and I was living a Spartan lifestyle. And yes, I have been homeless. I've been homeless for a couple months. When I sold my home, I had no place to go to. And my kids, there was a restraining order because my wife and I were forced to split up. They have a knack to do that. They have a knack to do that. Even though she's charged with the same charges I have, they have a knack to split up the parents. It's so bad. It's so bad to split up the parents. It ruins your life, you know. You don't get another life again. So at age 60, I started getting harassment after I lost my job from CPS. At age 65, they took my children. It took me to age 68 to have them back. I thought there's something called golden years or something that you're supposed to. I still need to work to support my family, to rebuild, to get my home again. But it's hard to start. It's hard to start when you're now 74 years old and you're trying to get work. When they say, oh, you're too old, they're not saying it subconsciously because it's against the law. But they are doing it. They are really doing it. And it's so hard. It really is hard. Because I want my family back. I want to be able to have them over for dinner. I have a dining table that seats 8 people. It's a beautiful wood carving, old antique dining table. I love to have my family, my wife and myself and a family of 6 to sit at that table. It's never happened. And I hope I live long enough to see it do happen. And maybe the grandchildren can sit at card tables and have their little dinner. But I'm still going to continue to fight CPS. It's a long road. And I hope that you all will join me. I hope that you keep fighting CPS. Don't give up. I'm pretty close to the end of my podcast, so I'm going to tell you good luck in the new year, much success and happiness. And I want to tell you, God bless you, good night, and I'll see you in the morning. This is Bob Pace signing off.